Hello again. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about making your characters' voices distinctive in your audiobooks. In my opinion, this is the second most important part of audiobook recording. Especially when you have like a quick bouncy conversation between your characters. You want the conversation to bounce quickly back and forth like a real conversation, but you don't want the readers or the listeners in this case to get confused on who is talking. I say it's the second most important thing because in my opinion, the most important thing is speaking clearly and being easy to understand what you're saying. This is all based on my own opinions. I'm sure there are people out there with more expertise. I've done a few audiobooks and some amateur voice work. Everything I've learned is by trial and error. Now, the first thing you might be tempted to do to make your characters distinctive is to try an accent. It's a good idea, but I want to caution people about a couple of potential problems with accents. Of course, you don't want it to interfere with the most important thing, which is being understood, and an accent can sometimes make you, if it's an extreme accent, can make you more difficult to understand. But one of the big problems I have when trying to do an accent is that when you're reading character dialogue, you aren't just reading a book. You're becoming an actor. You've transformed you're an actor. And you want the emotion and the mood of the characters to come through your performance. If you were concentrating really hard on doing an accent, it can pull you out of the moment. I've tried to do accents and then gotten to a dramatic part of my story, and the accent either falls apart or the drama doesn't come across because I can't act and do the accent at the same time. Speaking of consistency, can you do the accent consistently? Do you slip in and out of it? And something else, a big thing that I worry about is unintentionally turning my characters into caricatures or stereotypes. If your character is supposed to not be taken seriously, this might be fine, but I'm not saying don't do accents, because they can be great, and they can be fun, and they really can give your characters distinctive voices. What I'm saying is think about it first. Maybe practice a few of the more dramatic moments before you commit. In Waking Terror, I wanted to give the pathologist a very subtle Indian accent, but I just couldn't do it consistently. It either came off like a bad stereotype or somehow started sounding Scottish for some reason. I also had trouble reading her lines and giving them the proper emotion, the right emphasis on the right syllables. It was hurting my performance. It's important to know my limitations, so instead I opted to just enunciate a little more for her lines. When I did Secular City Limits, it was my first audiobook, so I wasn't super confident in my skills, and also I worried that I would unintentionally turn the characters into caricatures, and it's a very dark story. Now, I think the voices are very distinct in that book, but the distinction is more subtle. When I did Key Seekers, I was able to have more fun, because it's just an adventure story. One of the things I did was give some of the characters an introductory phrase that I would then edit out later. It would just sort of set up my voice to be that character. So for example, Ultor, who is this exaggerated hero character, I would often say, "I am Ultor," before reading his line, and then edit the "I am Ultor" out, which was a lot more work later on the editing side. But like I said, I'm not an expert, and I'm sure professionals are way more efficient than I am. Another character was sort of timid, and I might say, "Golly gee, I don't know about that," before reading his line. You probably noticed my body language changed when I did those introductory things, and that's another thing you can do. Change your body language, do something with make a note to do something with your posture or your face. It doesn't make sense that it would make that much of a difference, but I think something subconscious happens, or maybe there's like a muscle memory thing. Like in Buried Curses, for one of my voices, I spoke out of one side of my face and enunciated. And for another voice, I spoke out of the other side of my face and enunciated. They aren't that different, but they came out different enough to be distinct. I did this a lot in Waking Terror and Buried Curses, where I thought I did a really good job, and by that point, I was just a lot more confident. My narration actually goes really quickly when I'm recording an audiobook, but I've been known to record a line of dialogue 3 times and pick the best one, which again makes my editing painful. I've also tried recording one particular character's lines all at once for the whole book and then splicing them in later, but it's so time-consuming. And I found I was almost always taking the line that I recorded when I was actually reading it in order without breaking the thread of the story. So I probably won't be doing that again. I hope this helps with your own recordings. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but these are things that have worked for me. You can find my books, stories, and graphic novels, and of course audiobooks, on submatterpress.com or matthewbaron.com. Thanks for listening.